Hey everyone, welcome to Grafton Custom Woodworking. I've been asked to make a few picture frames, and my buddy at Duran Woodworking and Design, his link will be down below. He showed me a way to use the Rail and Stile router bits, and we made one. He showed me how to do it. We were not able to video it, so I'm going to try to redo it, making some more picture frames, and I'll show you how we did it. So I've got this piece of poplar. It is 3/4 inch by 1 5/8 by 30.5. And this will be enough to make one picture frame for a 5x7 picture. I went ahead and put a stop block here, and this will be 9 5/8 long. So that's for my stiles. So I'll need 2 of these. So I'll go ahead and bump it up and cut it, and then move it over and bump it up and cut it. And I'll need 2 of those. Now I went ahead and moved my stop block over a little bit. So from the distance from here to here, I'll need 2 rails that are 5 1/16. So the first bit that we're going to use is the bit that has the bearing in the center. And I've already got it all put in, but basically I'll use a ruler, put the ruler on the bearing and bring the fence up so that way it's level with that bearing. And I made a few test cuts just to make sure, but if I like the profile and I just see the height of it, that's right where we want it to be. So this cut right here will be for the edges of the rails, and the rails are the shorter pieces, so we'll have to cut the edges on all 4 sides. What I'm going to do is when I run this through, I'm going to cut this edge, and I'm just going to rotate it and then cut that edge. Nice little profile right there for each one of these. Now what we'll have to do is take this bit out and change the bit for the one that has the bearing at the top. I got the next bit in, and the same way with this bearing, we'll take a ruler and make sure it's level with the fence. And I do have a measuring block I could measure, but the best way to do that is put your board, or the ones that you just cut, against the fence. And what you're wanting to do is the tip, very tip of this cutter edge right here, you want it to be flush with the top of this. That's where you want the next bit to be. Now what we're going to need to do is cut both rails along the edge here. So we'll have to cut both of them along the edges, and then we'll also have to cut the stiles along the edges. Now you can see that nice little pretty profile that's going to have. Once put together, that's kind of how it's going to be. You'll see how it kind of fits in there. These right here just kind of slide in and fit right up in there. And that's actually a really good cut right there. But in order for the picture to go in, so what we got to do is right here, this edge, we're going to cut this back part out all the way on both the rails. And then on the stiles, we're going to have to mark and just cut a little bit of it. So I'm going to set the table saw up to go ahead and get that height of what we need to cut and get that distance to cut right along that edge right there. So again, on the rails, we're going to cut all the way across flush, and so that's a really good cut, nice and smooth through there. For the stiles part, what we got to do is these rails that we've done cut, we'll put them in, slide them in there, and then basically wherever this mark is right there, that's where we need to stop. So that way, make sure that we get the edges flush on there and make a pencil mark to where it's got to stop right there. So we have to cut everything from right there down, and we'll have to do the same thing over on this side. Put our pieces in, make sure that they're flush on the edge, and make our mark. And that way we know everything, all this has got to be gone same way as we did here, this whole piece flush with that. I've got my marks where I need to go. There's a couple of different ways we could do this. We could put a router bit, kind of cut this out, or we can, since we already have the blade set up, we can kind of sneak up on it. So just kind of lift it up and sneak up on it. So what I've done is I actually got my mark where I want to stop. I'm not going to go all the way down to the end here, so that way I can just use a chisel and kind of edge it out. Now that I got my cuts pretty close to the line, basically what I'm going to do is take my chisel, and on my line I'm just going to make a little mark. And then I'll just take a saw at an angle, just try to saw it down a little bit closer so we can get to it. One thing I do want to be careful is I don't hit the face here. I just kind of want to get my angle, get a lot of this meat out. And I'll do that for all four corners. Once you're done cutting that out, you can kind of see what they'll look like. So both of them I cut to the edge, and then you might have to just kind of clean out some, trim it up a little bit. It looks like I got a little piece right there I gotta remove, but that's really what it's gonna look like. So whenever we put them together, and now you can kind of see how all the corners are open. And so I did go finally get a piece of glass, and you just set the glass up in there. And looking at this, you can kind of see that at the top up here, I don't have much play, so the stiles were really good, but I do have a little bit of play, just a hair. So the rails could have been a little bit shorter, but that's okay. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and glue these four corners up, and it'll be ready. All right, there we have it. All done, all glued up. I still need to sand it and get some of the little fuzzies off of it and stuff like that, but it's glued up, kind of see. And this would be the back here. So it turned out really good. I'm gonna sand it and then put some stain on it, and then we'll come back and finish the back. I went ahead and put some Odie's oil on it, and it's looking really, really good. So what we'll do next is I did cut, so we'll put the glass in, and I went ahead and cut a piece of cardboard and a piece of hardy board to fit the right size. So we'll go ahead and put that in, and we'll also put the picture in. Now what we need to do is measure from here to here to get the center, and we will put our hanging piece in. And then also I have these little pins that will go on the side. Put a screw in here, and that way you can turn it to change the picture. You can see that's really pretty good flush, perfect. So that's what we'll do next. To get the center, we'll mark it. And then we can figure out about the height that we want this, but and I'm gonna go ahead and just put this on here so that way we can kind of get it level. Center right there. Now I'll take my punch. And you can see that's where we're going to be at right there. So these are really tiny small screws, so I'm not going to put a pilot hole in them. I'm just going to use the punch that got a good enough start on it. And I'm not going to tighten it all the way down just yet neither. And get it in there. And then I'm going to come back and hand tighten it, make sure it's good and snug. Next thing we need to do is put these holders in. They'll hold this back. And it really doesn't matter exactly where they all go, but I kind of want to try to keep them center as best as possible. And we also need to figure out about how far, in. We don't want to get too close and try to drill that screw in there, so we need to kind of come off, but we don't want to be too far back where it doesn't catch. So you got to kind of find that happy medium. I'm going to again get my ruler, get that center, and try to get where that hole is about centered. And again, if it's off just a little bit, it doesn't matter, but that's about right there. And that's probably enough meat for the screw to catch. So we will punch it. Do that again. And that's where that one will go. And we'll do the same thing for this one, and then the same thing for these. And I'll go ahead and get the screws in there and show you what it looks like. All right, there it is. I think it really turned out really good. One thing I want to point out is these screws here, don't tighten them too much, because you won't be able to turn it to be able to get the picture out and stuff. Tighten it just enough where it's good and snug, but you can still kind of turn it a little bit to take the back out and change the picture. But that's it. I think it turned out really good. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank y'all for watching, and I'm gonna get to making a bunch more of these. See you later.